Oh dear. It's falling apart. How's everybody doing? Feel free to take a second to get snacks, hydrate, pack a bowl, do whatever you need to do. I'm gonna wait a few minutes for people to come in before we start this true crime. How are you? I didn't eat today. I need to make sure to eat enough. For bed. Cheers. I'm working on it. Ready? This is that chapter, The Bizarre Case of Daryl Brooks.
2021. That was supposed to be this day of joy. November 21st, 2021. That was supposed to be this day of joy and excitement for the people of Waukesha, Wisconsin, because that is the day it held its annual Christmas parade. The theme of the 2021 parade, the 58th in the city's history, was comfort and joy, with dozens of local businesses, schools, sports clubs, and hundreds of Waukesha residents taking part. That year, the parade began at a junction of Pleasant Street and West Main Street, before following West Main to West Wisconsin Avenue and coming to an end after passing Cutler Park. However, shortly before the sun set, about 40 minutes-ish into the parade at 4:39 p.m., this day of joy and like the best, the community has to offer, it switched from celebrations to pure chaos and violent carnage. Hey and welcome, my name is Mike, and in this old video we're going to take a look at the Waukesha Christmas Parade attack, the incredibly horrifying event that occurred, the manhunt then after, and you get this folks, in a story that's already as bizarre and horrifying as they come.
Put your hands up! Hands up! Hands up!
The eventual trial would be the most bizarre part of all, because a man named Daryl Brooks, he was thinking to himself he could crazy his way out of anything.
It is disrespectful to me that you think I would come in here purposely and treat this like a joke or a game.
I never said it was a joke.
What type of statement is that?
Folks, set your phasers to what this shit.
Your life is not on the line.
Now folks, let's give it a go.
Sounds like a viable argument, but who is this guy?
On a late Sunday in November, the people of Waukesha, Wisconsin, they're only mad for it. They were getting ready, they were getting excited, and they were happy out. They were chuffed, right? Because the Christmas parade, it was going as planned, and everybody was having a good ass time.
Oh, is this the shooter? Is this the Boston shooter?
But we're not going to talk too much about the good side of the parade, unfortunately. We're gonna go straight to when it went from a good ass time to the direct opposite of that.
Thank you.
Detective Tom Casey of the Waukesha Police Department was helping with traffic control when he began hearing screaming.
That's spicy.
Detective Casey looked on, first in confusion, then in horror, as a crowd of parade onlookers parted to reveal a red Ford SUV
I don't think you
that
want the
appears
pickle
to be
either,
heading right for
but I
him and the parade behind him. The detective yelled for the driver to stop, but even as he clearly tried to position himself directly in the car's path, the driver continued on. Casey was forced out of the vehicle's path and he helped
You hear the crunch.
helplessly looked on as it tore past him and towards Main Street. As the SUV was actually going past Casey, it was going slow enough at this point that he was able to actually pound his fist onto the windshield, demanding it stop. As you can imagine, punching a car does not make it stop. Once the vehicle cleared him, before it had even gotten into the parade, Casey had called for assistance as something was going horribly wrong with the parade.
They're super spicy. The pickles are not.
I mean, at this point, it wasn't, readily apparent what the driver was up to, what they were thinking. Maybe it was a horrible accident, somebody cut the brakes.
I don't know.
But it didn't seem like it was that. However, from what authorities saw, it seemed that the driver, as soon as they saw the parade, they stepped on the gas. This red SUV then began accelerating. It was getting faster and faster as it got closer to the parade. So what happened when a 3,500 pound Ford Escape slammed into crowds of people, and then just kept going? It's sort of hard to put into words.
Really, that's right.
Along its route, the Ford ran through dozens of people, beginning with the Dancing Grannies, through the Waukesha South Marching Band, Burris Logistics, Waukesha Blazers baseball team, Waukesha Extreme Dancing Group, all the way to the team from Citizens Bank. The resulting carnage was definitely something that nobody, I think, should witness. It was
There's an animal in there.
As horrifying as you can imagine it would be when a big SUV slams into a group of people and just keeps on going. It was like the driver was trying to empty the gas tank. And that's not even counting the families and the kids that had gathered up alongside of the parade, getting into the holiday mood. Human beings, some elderly, some children, bounced off the hood of the SUV, and some were pulled underneath. Witnesses would later describe seeing the vehicle literally back over bodies as it tried to get clear and keep going. One witness saying it saw the car run over a woman's head. It was pure terror as victim after victim fell. Some people just tried to run away from the scene as fast as they could. Other people stayed there trying to shield and protect their families. Most people didn't even have time to realize, what was going on until it had already happened. The vehicle entered close to the start of the parade and continued on along the route, hitting person after person for more than a mile. All along the route, it was the same. Calls went out to all emergency services. There was a mass casualty incident. All available personnel from police, fire and rescue, even local FBI agents in the vicinity were all called to the parade scene. Hospitals were warned that they were about to be flooded with victims, while emergency services themselves were being flooded with tips and descriptions and videos from the scene. Nobody knew what the shit had just happened. The most obviously and critically injured were put into ambulances, others into cars. ProHealth Waukesha Memorial Hospital was closest, a little over a mile away, and nurses from ProHealth had been participating in the parade and had just phoned their colleagues ahead of the first patients coming through the doors, which would only be 2 or 3 minutes later. The response was swift and dramatic. Within an hour of the incident starting to unfold, several of the devastated victims were already undergoing surgery at Aurora Summit Medical Center, 15 miles from the parade route. Ultimately, 5 people would lose their lives on the day of the parade. One more than the day after. 6 children required emergency surgery the day of the parade, and then the next day, another 2 kids had to have emergency surgery to try and save their lives. Now, the majority of the dead were members of this dance troupe called the Dancing Grannies. The troupe had lost three beloved members. Virginia, Ginny Sorensen, and Tamara Durand were killed almost instantly. Ginny had been at the back carrying the group's banner. The third member killed was Leanna Owen. Victim number 4 was also connected to the dance group. 81-year-old Wilhelm Hospel's wife, Lola, had been performing with the group that day. Wilhelm had driven his wife and several of her pals to the parade, as he had done at plenty of events before. This time, though, Lola would be going home alone, as Wilhelm was killed watching his wife perform in the group. The 5th adult victim was 52-year-old teller at Citizens Bank, Jane Coolidge. Jane had been marching in the parade with her colleagues when the SUV had ripped through the revelers. By the Tuesday evening after the attack, the news broke. A 6th victim had succumbed to their injuries.
Oh, no.
And it was even more tragic than the previous 5, as this time it was 8-year-old Jackson Sparks.
My grandma was scolding me in my ear.
The hunt was quickly on, as you probably would have guessed, for the driver of that fucking SUV. And with the full force of the city's and state's law enforcement, the hunt didn't last too long. Because I'll tell you, after leaving the scene, the SUV somehow managed to limp away. But they had made absolute shite of the SUV at this point. It was entirely written off. The front end was all smashed up. The rear end was shot to shit. Stuck between the dented, twisted metal of the Ford's hood were several items of clothing belonging to the victims it had struck. The car wasn't in any condition to crawl away from the scene, let alone flee in any meaningful way. The driver did, though, manage to get away from the immediate scene, but was forced to ditch the car, which soon would have everybody in the city looking for it. Now, the totaled car, which again, hadn't made it far from the scene, even though the driver was nowhere to be seen, the totaled car gave the investigators a name. The name of, well, probably the fellow who was in it. And his name was Daryl Brooks. Alerts and APBs went out on all law enforcement agencies in the area to find this guy. Find him yesterday. Meanwhile, though, a visibly panicked Brooks began going door to door on Elizabeth Street after ditching his car. He claimed to be looking for somebody to call him an Uber.
Hey, I'm calling an Uber, and I'm supposed to be waiting for it over here, but I don't know when it's coming. Can you call it for me, please?
He would eventually find himself at the home of Daniel Ryder, who opened his home to Brooks after he had claimed to be homeless and in need. Ryder saw that Brooks had no coat or shoes, despite how it was below freezing that evening. Not only did Daniel Ryder give Daryl Brooks his own jacket and a sandwich, he also offered to find him a pair of shoes too. Ryder, of course, had no idea of the reality behind Brooks needing to get out of Dodge, and calmly watched as Brooks called his mother on Ryder's phone, though he'd only learned the identity of the person on the other end of the line when she called the number back later on. Now Daniel Ryder, who had let this guy in, how you doing? He let him in out of the kindness of his heart. This guy who was looking kind of shady and demanding to get off the street. He would only sort of realize, what the shit is all this about? When he saw, copious amounts of police cars and sirens going off, driving down his street, very clearly looking for somebody. Maybe it's the guy who was desperate to get off the street. You just let him know. Probably not him. It was in fact shortly after that one of Ryder's neighbors, they recognized that Daryl Brooks was the man on the run because he just kind of ran into a whole parade of people.
Somebody donate? Thanks, Dan. That's nice of you.
Hands up! Put your hands up, I can see them! Put your hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Now!
Hi, Katie. How are you? Hello, kitchen dweller. Oh, I'm sorry.
Officers would arrive and, in fact, end up detaining Daryl Brooks without too much of a fuss. And then during them arresting him, a sandwich happened to fall out of Daryl Brooks's pocket sandwich.
I just use the microphone to call for me.
I love this song.
I'll tell you what. If everything turns out to be on the up and up, life will be good, and you'll be on your way, all right?
You have any weapons? I know.
What's your name, guy?
I'm just telling her my name.
What did you tell Parker?
Yes, sir.
Copy, no additional
This
victims.
matches the description of the guy that got called on who was going door to door over here.
Yeah, I was
Where are your shoes, man?
trying to use somebody's phone.
Where are your shoes?
My flip-flops is in his house. I was coming from that parade down there.
Okay.
I know a frame down there.
Take it. Yeah, do something. That is not to be determined, sir.
In Brooks's pocket was a black Ford key, which matched the Ford Escape used in the attack. The car was quickly connected to Brooks, though being registered to his mother. Some more of Brooks's personal items were later found hidden in a child's playhouse, a tactic that wasn't new to Brooks. He had fled the car he had made sight of with people, hid a load of his shit in a children's playhouse he found while going door to door demanding to be let in. Interestingly, during his previous arrests, which we will get to, so look forward to that, folks, he kind of made a habit of hiding in children's playhouses. I wouldn't even trust him with a children's playhouse. He'd been trying to change his appearance by dumping his jacket as soon as he exited the car. So the suspect was quickly identified as 39-year-old Milwaukee native Darrell Edward Brooks Jr. I'd say Manson lamps, but they're like Manson, Dahmer, Gain, Gacy lamps all rolled into one. A convicted felon and registered sex offender with outstanding warrants for a statutory sex crime out of a Nevada court. Just when I was beginning to like him. The story of Darrell Brooks is the story of a man who hated everything. He hated the world, right? And he didn't care who he lashed out at. He wanted to cause as much damage as possible. He's not exactly somebody, you want to be found by. And sure, folks, with half of our lives being online these days, you can say the same about the internet. It's best not to be found by anybody on there. Thing is, though, with this whole fangled thing called the interwebs, you only see, when you're... Darrell Brooks was born February 21st, 1982, raised by a single mother. He was named Darrell Brooks because the word shite was already taken. Darrell Brooks' criminal history went all the way back to September 5th, 1999, when he was first arrested and charged as a junior in high school with inflicting substantial bodily harm, a felony, at just 18 years of age. That first incident, because we kind of have a few to go through, so look forward to that. That would be the beginning of a decades-long attempt by Brooks to sort of just prove to the world how much of a giant piece of shit he was. The assault had been severe enough that Brooks was given 3 years probation and a 6-month custodial stay at Franklin's Milwaukee County Community Reintegration Center following a guilty plea. He'd be returned to the House of Correction for another 70 days on charges of possessing marijuana and obstruction. He faced charges of obstruction once again in February 2005, this time in Manitowoc County, which resulted in a bench warrant being issued after Brooks failed to show up for court. He'd later be found guilty and sentenced to 2 days in jail, but credited with time served. I mean, he was collecting charges and convictions like they were Pokemon cards, like they were Skittles. He couldn't get enough of them. It was mad. But the most significant and telling escalation in Brooks's criminal behavior came in November 2006 in a place called Sparks, Nevada, because that was when he found himself facing felony charges of statutory sexual seduction. See, these charges related to Brooks getting into a romantic relationship with a 15-year-old girl, who then got pregnant as a result. Now, that case came to a close in March 2007 when he pleaded guilty, and he was sentenced to anywhere between 1 to 3 years. He served about half of that, about 1.5 years. He was released in September 2009, and you know what? You think after all these kind of dirty shites he's been up to, maybe you might want to stop doing all that, but he was thinking, nah. By the way, during his stay at the cheapest hotel in Nevada, he appeared in a documentary called Crystal Darkness, giving details of his own experiences with crystal meth.
You actually become the drug, not even a human being. basically. That's how I felt. Like I wasn't a human anymore. I was just something.
Ooh, that'll be really pretty, I think.
Something loud.
So I need any more.
Disgusting. Despicable. I can go on. I can use a lot of words, but that's what I became. It's really what I became.
Now, after his release from Nevada, he returned to Wisconsin, but he remained in trouble. On February 24th, 2010, Brooks was arrested again, this time in relation to a domestic disturbance in which a woman told officers Brooks had thrown her to the ground and grabbed her by the throat, choking her. He was charged with strangulation, battery, and criminal damage. He entered a plea of no contest in August 2010 and managed to get the charges reduced to a single one of strangulation, for which he'd served 90 days with work release. The sentence was followed by 3 years of probation. So I can hear you barking, big dog. You're probably guessing, wow, he's done a lot of sick shit, but kind of keeps getting off, like with a little tap on the wrist. You know, he's never really doing, you know, the full time in jail. It seems like the law had a lot of opportunities to lock up this fairly very, very dangerous person. Like a lot of opportunities, and they never did. They always were just like, you little scamp, get out of here.
Sounds like that domestic abuse.
And that's why he kept doing it. Because not only had he plenty of experience with, you know, violence and that sort of thing, he also had plenty of experience with using his weapon of choice, a car. So even just 1 month before the parade incident, his ex-girlfriend reported that he had tried to hit her with a car. But go back even a decade earlier, before the parade attack, Brooks was charged with resisting a police officer, a Milwaukee PD police officer. Basically, Brooks had been driving, pulled over for not wearing his seatbelt. I mean, you'd think that's kind of an easy thing to rectify and maybe just wear your seatbelt, but Darrell Brooks said no. And then what could have just resulted in a fine became a much more serious charge when the officer believed Brooks was about to drive away. Again, just not wearing a seatbelt. The officer narrowly avoided being hit by Darrell Brooks' car as he tried to make his getaway, but he managed to jump into the car, wrestle the keys off Brooks. Brooks probably could have faced an attempted murder charge of a police officer. Probably wouldn't have been a bad thing if he did, knowing what he would go on to later do. Okay, guys, I know what you're thinking, right? Bit of a dickhead, but I have just the thing to change your mind. Predator, ding. Child molester, ding. Killer, ding. Woman beater, triple ding. Musician, quadruple ding. See, Darrell also went by Mathboy Fly. Yes, his rap name was 3 Things He Loved: numbers, children, and insects. And his music, well, folks, it's time to separate the art from the artiste, because it is absolutely...
Is this him? Is this guy, this murderer, like a rap artist?
What's the business? I'ma pull up with the yay like what's the business? Eating lunch with the blood like what's the business? Hey, you're double drum like what's the business? Money calling on the line, I couldn't blood steal. 420s, I just counted off a drug deal. You ain't a grinder, you got fronted, how your blood feel? Get them in, get them donuts, how my blood feel.
Hilarious. He doesn't even know the words to his own stuff.
What's the business? What's the business?
So look at him, looking for the business. Will he find it? Stay tuned. So yeah, that's shite. Now you can lump the art in with the artist in this one, and then lump both of them into the scene. In Minecraft, of course. There's no kids in there, Darrell. Brooks got himself into trouble repeatedly over the next few years because he was labeled as a sex offender due to that charge in Nevada, but he never signed the L registry because he was thinking, sure, not me. Why would I do that? That included in November 2012 when he gave a fake address to the registry, and when they did one of their like random sweeps. Well, if you can believe it, he just wasn't there. I mean, literally, when he was released in 2008, he not a one time did he sign onto the registry, like, properly. He didn't even register in Wisconsin at all as a registered sex offender. So I guess that would make him an unregistered sex offender. On July 28, 2020, Brooks was involved in an incident in which he allegedly shot at one of his relatives and their friend following an argument. No one was injured, but Brooks was charged with 2 counts of recklessly endangering safety and a single count of possessing a firearm as a felon. Now, Brooks would be released from that charge in November 2021, and that's when his, it escalates even more. I know as hard as that is to believe that it can escalate more, he figured it out. He managed to figure it out and do just that, ultimately ending with where we know this will end. From trouble relating to an ongoing and long-running dispute with his ex over child support payments, to numerous domestic violence charges. In May, he was arrested for beating a woman at a hotel in Georgia. He later failed to show up for a court hearing he'd agreed to attend. Which brings us back to an incident I briefly mentioned. On November 2nd, 2021, he gave his ex the old GTA treatment, in which at a gas station he punched her and then drove over her leg. I guess driving over her leg gave him a taste of doing more of that, because 19 days later, he drove a 2010 red Ford Escape into the annual Christmas parade, driving into 80 people, murdering 6. Brooks was taken into custody without too much fuss, which is pretty surprising given what he'd done shortly before. Importantly, body cam footage of the arrest would show that officers simply ordered Brooks to the ground, which he complied with. At no point did they force him or throw him to the floor. Yet by the time he was in the interview room, talking to the police, which you can imagine would be like right after, he was saying, "Oh, Jesus, it's my shoulder. You didn't have to be so rough."
Cheers.
You injured at all, dude? Yeah. What hurts?
When they slammed me, my knee, I already have an injury.
Okay, yes. That's my ID.
It certainly is.
Yes. I'm so cold.
And God bless the interviewing detectives who had to try and navigate Brooks's constant attempts to try and derail the entire line of questioning. Initially, when Durrell was arrested, police didn't even tell him it was in relation to the Christmas parade attack. They said they brought him in about some domestic abuse charges that his baby mama was giving out about him as usual. Domestic abuse, which one, am I right? Durrell, of course, said he was hanging out with his baby mama, and then he was going to watch the Packers football game. What parade? There's a parade? Who knew?
Do you have any questions before I start for me?
Only thing I want to know is, what in the heck am I being charged with anything?
I'm just trying to figure out how you got here.
Yeah, I know, but it seemed like
You really?
like
You really want to harass me from an account with a photo of your child's face on it? I think that's smart. My last stream was just full of 16,000 people. You think that's smart? Okay. Parent of the Year award.
all I'm saying is I just want to know what I'm looking at, and if I can just notify my girls. That's it. I don't have a problem with talking to you guys at all. I just want to know what am I looking at.
So what happened, Darrell, where you ended up? So I know you say you're not familiar with the area.
At all.
I'll lay this out. How did you end up at a guy's house asking to use his phone without your phone in your shoes? Do you understand where that's kind of weird? How did you get to be open? What happened? And I just have concerns if I fact check that Darrell's not telling me the truth. So why did we find you with a car key in your pocket?
It wasn't in my pocket. I don't even know where they said that was laying on the ground.
That's yours.
Yeah. It should have been by my ID.
Yeah, it's yours. It's your car key, okay? Because it goes to a Ford Escape in your mom's name covered in mortgage shop. Okay. Listen, Darrell. I'm trying to be as open and honest with you as I can be. You know, I'm Christian too, and believe me, I'm not perfect. And neither are you. And I'm not calling you a terrible man. I'm not saying you were out yesterday hunting, and just let me finish. For the love of God, Marcus. For yourself, for your family. You know what happened yesterday for the people.
Toodles.
Tell me what happened. Some people said you were driving kind of crazy. We got reports of it. You got the key, you got the car. Did you take the car or did your mom give you the car? I know you know what car I'm talking about.
I wish they had some Tylenol. I've been trying to fight this pain, man, since.
They might, I don't know.
They show.
I don't know how. Did you ask them?
Yes.
So they don't?
They just said they'll see. And we'll see. It hurt worse now than it did yesterday. Or last night, rather.
Yeah, it's gonna be sore.
It's definitely sore.
There's no doubt about that.
Oh, my God.
Take a break and see if you run those and tell them what I mean.
If he couldn't like push in some irreverent tangent into the conversation, he was just complaining about how much his shoulder was sore. I mean, honestly, poor him at this point.
See what we got.
Dude, it gotta be something wrong, man. How in the hell is it?
Sometimes brains will pop too.
Whatever they did, it hurt so bad.
Now, folks, you might notice the really weird thing is that his pain seems to leave when police exit the room. That's weird, huh? His shoulder is grand now.
What if it wasn't me driving? What if it wasn't you? What if it was my mom's truck? Mm-hmm. But I wasn't driving. Mm-hmm. What if it was you? What if it wasn't me? Mm-hmm. Who else would it be? That's what I'm asking. What am I facing? That's all I want to know. I don't have no problem talking with you guys.
You got people in here that have to go to the hospital.
So they're saying I injured somebody, or you're saying I injured somebody.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at what, reckless endangerment?
Do I have ghosts in my house? Of course I have ghosts in my house. I'm a medium. What do you
At the
mean?
very least.
People
Yeah.
have heard that's reckless endangerment.
Pretty regularly.
Whether to classify it. Yeah, people have legs broken.
Endangerment's where you may have hurt somebody by your actions. You did hurt somebody by your actions. So what am I being charged with? That's what I'm trying to
I don't know
say.
exactly yet.
Still working that out.
I don't know all of the details. You're not going to get that out of me. I'm sorry. I'm explaining to you. You're driving down there. You're looking at people got hurt. People got some broken legs.
This
And
guy's
y'all saying that's
lying.
me.
I know that's you.
How you know that's me?
Because I can recognize you. I can tell it's you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your mom's car. That you had the key for. I can ID you. Terrell. I'm just asking you to be honest
That's
about it.
awesome.
Be honest about what I'm facing.
Even when told when literal
Yeah,
children
for
have been hurt
poetry.
and one kid died, you'd still pass Brooks saying, but my shoulder though, that's the real
Yeah.
problem here, lads. His apparent inability to answer even like the simplest, most basic questions would soon become the bane of Judge Jennifer Dulos' life as she presided over the sham. That's the only way to put it. The sham of a trial.
Here's
That
another.
I mean, it's entertaining, folks. You got a lot to look forward to here.
Briefly, Judge, I've observed that for about the past 40 minutes, Mr. Brooks appears to be asleep in the courtroom. I don't know if he's just being disrespectful, uninterested, or if he's not feeling well. But to avoid a appellate issue in the future, I think it'd be appropriate to inquire if he is capable of assisting in his own defense at this point.
All right, why don't I give the defense attorneys a moment? We'll mute the microphone so they can talk to Mr. Brooks, make sure he's feeling okay, and make an assessment of his ability to assist in his defense during these proceedings. I'll step off when we do that.
All right, and we're gonna take a break and then we'll
Brooks faced his first charges, a whole bundle of felonies on November 23rd, including 5 counts of
He found
first-degree
guilty,
homicide,
obviously.
which would rise to 6 a few days later after 8-year-old Jackson Sparks passed away that
Oh,
evening.
no. Oh,
His bail
no.
was set at $5
Child?
million. Now, in the early days of him moving through the court's process, Brooks seemed to be kind of doing, like, it basically seemed to be going the exact way everybody
Is he
sort of
mentally
kind of
ill?
expected it would go, which is him just sort of taking the piss out of everything.
The avoidance of
Object
his
to that.
responses
Object
to
to that.
questions asked.
I object to that
That
because
his,
at the end
I
of the day,
understand, you, Mr.
I
Brooks,
object.
stop. You can
I
object, your objection is noted, I'm going on. This is one
I
of the
object.
expectations that I have, is you can object, it will be noted, but you can't keep interrupting. I need to have an accurate record.
Okay.
So
you're
your
reading from
objection,
something-
sir, your
You're
objection
reading
is
from something
noted.
that I haven't been
This
privileged to
is a
read
prime
myself.
example of some of the difficulty with Mr. Brooks.
I don't think you have a PhD,
He
Your Honor.
can be, in my opinion, deliberately disruptive, but nonetheless, he maintains being competent at the most basic level in order to present a defense on his behalf.
Object to that.
Initially, Brooks had appointed court lawyers ready to represent him. They were the ones who would help him enter his plea of not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. Early on, they also filed requests for a change of judge and venue. The first was granted. He did get a change of judge, though I'm sure in retrospect, Brooks wished it hadn't gone through. Consider it's the reason he would end up face-to-face with Judge Jennifer Dulos. The change of venue, though, request that was denied. Brooks's insanity defense would also be withdrawn a couple of months after first being entered, following reports of court-ordered psychiatric tests. So you can probably guess that then withdrawing the plea of guilty by insanity, well, he knew the reports were not going to say he was insane, so he was shit out of luck.
I cannot say that this is one of those
Everyone said I
neuroclassic,
understand.
Mr. Brooks,
I
stop.
object, which is my First Amendment right to be able to say what I want.
Mr. Brooks, your rights do not involve interrupting me. That's the,
I objected. I didn't
that's the
interrupt. I
procedure
interject.
that we will
Object.
follow. At trial, what's going to happen, if you continue
She could have held
to
him in
do that, is
contempt.
you will be admonished in front of the jury
That's
if
fine.
you continue that.
That's fine.
Like I said, this is not one of the narrow class of cases in which a defendant may not be competent to represent himself because there's no evidence before the court to suggest he has a severe mental illness.
So while Brooks wasn't, the trial was as insane as any you will ever see. I'm sure you've seen some clips already. That's thanks largely to a ruling in September of 2022 when Judge Jennifer Dulos, she granted, she said, hell yeah, you can dismiss your court-appointed lawyers and representatives. You can dismiss them. You want to do this yourself, big guy? Great.
Mr. Brooks,
Sit up here and act like you know me. People like you don't, y'all
Mr.
think you don't
Brooks.
know nothing about where I come from.
Mr.
You
Brooks.
push me, dog. Don't push back then.
Mr. Brooks.
Don't push back. Push me.
Mr. Brooks, we have to continue with this hearing.
No, I'm worried about, man. Don't put your hand on me, dude.
Nobody put their hands on you.
Yeah, they better not put their hand on me.
Okay, Mr. Brooks, you need to look at me for a minute, okay?
Why? Listen to all this political stuff y'all got going on?
Mr. Brooks, I'm more concerned about.
Don't touch me, dog. We see that.
All right, we're gonna take a break and we're gonna come back after lunch. I'm not gonna do this with him right now. He needs to be here. He's not cooperating. I'm gonna give you the warning, Mr. I will give you the warning that if you continue to interrupt when we go back on the record, you will forfeit your right to be in the courtroom today.
Yeah, that's like basically the entire trial in a nutshell. Like this is the perfect example of you may have heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's basically that some people, the
Think they're
stupider
more
you are,
confident
the
than
smarter
they are.
you believe you are. So you'll find dumb people are very confident, which they should not be. And this is a prime example right here. Like reading a sentence and understanding a sentence, not exactly the same thing.
It's
And
like
I
why the
don't
bullies
think
are
that
confident
Brooks
and trying to
read a lot
bully
about
us.
the law in the lead up to the trial, which honestly sort of just makes it more entertaining. And anything he did read, he sure as shit didn't understand.
Is he still
Object to
able?
that, Your Honor. I'm not allowed to
Her
keep.
answer stands. There's no question to which to
I object to that. There is.
You can't testify at the moment. If you want to provide further information after she is done testifying, I will give you that opportunity.
Will she?
Your
will she be
objection
able to-
is
Will she
overruled.
be able to stay right there so I can ask the question?
You have got to stop. It's fine if you object. I will rule on it as I deem appropriate under the rules of evidence, which, by the way, I provided a copy for you. See that big book over there? It has the criminal
Ask your
statutes,
mom.
it has the traffic code, it has the rules of evidence. Well, it's on your table. It's
Hey,
behind the
okay, what's
microphone, and it's there. I've provided it to you as a courtesy so that you have that available to you.
Anything to me.
In short, the prosecution, being a team of highly trained and well-read lawyers with years
That's
and
great,
years of trial
Rusty.
experience between them, presented the
That's
state's
brilliant.
case with a thorough professionalism. They called dozens of witnesses, presented hundreds of items of evidence, and carefully detailed the narrative of the
Missed
day
you too.
in question based
How are
on
you?
the facts
Good, I hope.
available. Brooks, by the way,
Serving
he
justice.
saw them do
That's
this and was
awesome.
like, nah, he did none of that. He said, why would I be fucking nerds? I'm not doing shit. Hey, crazy beats strong every time, and he's gonna crazy his way out of this one.
Obviously, I don't have any rehearsed or well prepared speech, so I'm just gonna speak from the heart. There's always two sides to every story.
When it came time for opening
He
arguments,
was
for
caught on
example, you know
camera.
when the defense and the prosecution usually time to do kind of an outline, a broad outline of what they're going to be yapping away about. Brooks instead decided, I'm not gonna tell you what I'm about. I'm gonna tell you how I feel. I basically just gave this like hilarious, like rambling, incoherent, big long diatribe of shite.
Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. It's easy to disregard a lot of factors, a lot of misunderstanding.
Oh, boo-hoo for you.
Something he did, by the way, throughout the trial, and again at his closing argument. Like, Brooks's incompetence was so obvious that if he hadn't murdered, quite a lot of people, it would be hilarious what he was doing the show trial. Judge Doro did everything she could possibly do to avoid a mistrial, which seemed to be probably what Brooks was aiming for, including handling Brooks with the kiddiest of kid gloves. Earlier, she had ruled he was competent and intelligent enough to defend himself, which was a very low bar. Brooks showed such a clear and obvious misunderstanding of not only simple comprehension, but also an astounding misinterpretation of fundamental legal terms. It's like that old one about how the North Koreans landed a rocket on the sun because they did so at night. The lies are so stupid, it's almost hilarious. And frankly, you can get the popcorn out.
And you had torn ligaments?
Interjection leading.
Overruled.
You say that in the question before?
Yes.
And were those both in the same leg?
Interjection leading.
Sorry,
Yes.
overruled. If we
Of course.
just wait when there's an objection. I'm overruling it. It's relevant. It's not leading. The witness's answers may stand.
Yeah, you overrule every objection.
And the jury will disregard the additional commentary made by Mr. Brooks at this time.
Additional misconduct at his findings. That's not gonna work either.
Mr. Brooks, you are advised to stop with the commentary.
No, I'm gonna say what I want.
You called this witness. Mr. Brooks, you keep making that statement, but it's a misstatement of the requirements in the law.
Are you aware
Earlier,
what a plaintiff is?
it was
Irrelevant.
pillow mints.
Sustained.
This one is garlic patties.
Grounds for the sustain, Your Honor?
Next question.
You could have thrown the dog in there, and it probably would have put up a better legal argument against him getting what he was going to get.
I can see clearly you know nothing about the law. It seems like you have a tenuous grasp on the English language in general.
Do you think that I think this is funny?
Now, Brooks's last-ditch attempts to avoid what he likely knew what was coming was that, he was arguing that the jury should just be allowed to say, nope.
You have the power to nullify any law that you don't agree with.
Objection, move to strike statement.
Sustained. I
Objection.
will strike from the record the last statement made by the defendant. The jury will disregard it.
Which is clearly what I've been saying.
Brooks attempted to push the concept of jury nullification on the 12 citizens who'd soon be deciding his fate. In short, nullification relates to the idea that there is absolutely
ringing,
nothing at
mostly
all
choking in
stopping
my
a
ears.
jury member from disregarding everything they've heard throughout the course of the trial, no matter how lopsided the evidence and facts may be, and just return the verdict that, hey, they just feel like returning, Basically, it's like a verdict based on feelings, not facts. And he thought, sure, Darwitz, he's just so damn lovely. He's just such a charmer that he will win them over, and they just love him, so they'll say not guilty because he's great. What do you think happened?
Everyone.
Listen, you know, I
Yeah.
could show you clips,
Smoke and
and we would be here
do
for
some yoga.
hours and hours. I mean, it was a
Over here in a
16-day-long trial, and the clips, they go off the charts and are extensive. But there's only so much of Darrell I can kind of put up with. So here's a compilation of his greatest hits. I mean, for this, I literally would use Yakety Sax, but, well, who can afford the rights to that? So life insurance music will have to do.
I'm not gonna sit here and let you fix the trial because you don't want to tell the truth to the jury.
Mr. Brooks, please stop. Once
So
again,
we can
Mr.
open the
Brooks
door
is
on-
being
we can
loud,
open the door on how old she told me she
disrespectful,
was.
interrupting,
We can ask that question
he is
to me.
over the
Did you
top
understand?
animated
Do you
right
know
now.
that?
Mr. Brooks, I'm ordering you to sit down and to let the
No,
state
listen,
finish.
no, I'm not gonna sit here and let somebody be inaccurate on the record. I don't take this as a game. That's what nobody, you don't gotta explain nothing to me.
Do you want?
That's what you don't understand. You think that this is a whole game to me. This is not a game to me, Your Honor. Nothing about this is a joke. That's what y'all don't understand. Your life is not on the line. Mine is. And you think that I think this is funny?
I don't think it's funny whatsoever.
So as long as the jury's out, we should probably discuss that. I would like to provide the defendant and the court with.
So that had to be said. So it's that defendant. So she has
Alleged
to
record of
Yes,
ableist
that.
Stop talking. All right, I need to take a break. This man right now is having a stare down with me. It's very disrespectful. He pounded his fist. Frankly, it makes me scared.
He's tantruming.
Just a reminder to everyone that I do expect everyone in the courtroom to demonstrate appropriate decorum and courtesy as the verdicts are read and refrain from audible responses. Any disruptions may result in removal from the courtroom. We, the jury, find the defendant, Darrell E. Brooks, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as charged in count 1 of the information. Dated this 26th day of October 2022, signed by the foreperson, juror number 11.
Only 5 days shy of a year to the day of the parade attack, on November 16th, 2022, Brooks was given a life sentence for each of the lives he took. He was also found guilty of the other 70 related charges, which won him another 762 and a half years. All of these sentences, the 6 life spells included, were to be served consecutively. He will die in jail, but the footage and the memes, they live on. Fortunately, unfortunately, at his sentencing, Darrell spoke for 2 long-ass hours. But let's be honest, folks, we can wipe our ass with what he had to say. Why did he do this? Well, still to this day, no one knows. There's never been any clear motive in why Darrell did this, but most likely he was just acting out. He was angry at everyone, the world, and wanted to cause as much destruction as possible. He likely left his baby mama's house in a pissed off mood and decided to do what he'd always done throughout his colorful. Make his problems someone else's.
Perhaps the one question that will remain unanswered. Why? Why did you barrel down White Rock Avenue?
Because he was
Why
tantruming.
did you not stop? Why did you keep going? You need to stop
No.
right now or you will be removed.
Remove me
All right? He will be removed. He cannot simply stay
then. I
quiet
don't
when
consent
this
to being in
court talks.
sentence anyway. I don't consent to this, just like I told you. I don't know the
He'll be in recess until he's
I don't
removed to
even
the other
understand
courtroom.
the true nature.
Meanwhile, the parade continues, albeit with a new legacy to forge. Rather than solely building on the long tradition of Christmas celebrations, the parade is now a point of pride, a display of resilience for the people of Waukesha. People who have come together again and again since the attack. First in the candlelit vigil just hours from the attack, then in the weeks and months to come. And they would raise millions for the victims and the families of the dead. While Darrell Brooks is in prison, he could probably make a pretty good reality TV show out of that. Oh, and Darrell Brooks is appealing his sentence, so there's that. Good luck, pal. I think it will go swimmingly for you, like everything is always done. Thank you so much for watching, folks. It means the absolute world to me that you're here watching this whole video. As always, means the world. So, thanks, I guess. But you know what? Until the next little video, which will be up when it's up, give it a go. You can also check out the That Chapter Patreon for $2 a month to get early access, ad-free all videos.
Terrible. What a terrible thing to do. There was another one that popped up. This one's about 20 minutes. I think it's a missing person video. It's another Better Off Red. True crime. Jennifer Dulos. So I'm gonna just let her take over.
Spent the last 10 years or so living among Connecticut's. He had spent the last 10 years or so living among Connecticut's upper crust. You know what I mean? Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of True Crime. True Crime. If you are new here, hi. My name is Sarah, and what I do here is tell you a terrible story to ruin your day and put on my makeup at the same time. So if that sounds like fun to you, you are in the right place. So make sure that you subscribe to this channel, turn on all the little notifications, and then that way you will never miss one of my terrible stories. Today's story is one that I somehow missed completely, even though there's like a Netflix documentary about it and a bunch of episodes on various crime shows. So I think you're really gonna dig it. And I don't really have much else to say about it, so let's just get right into it. This is the story of Jennifer Dulos. The morning of May 24th, 2019 was a Friday heading into Memorial Day weekend in New Canaan, Connecticut. 51-year-old mother of 5, Jennifer Dulos, dropped her kids off at school that morning. The Dulos family also had a full-time nanny named Lauren Almeida. She was on tap later to pick up 4 of the 5 kids from school to take them to Manhattan, about an hour away, for an orthodontist appointment. And that appointment, I think, was like midday or something. She had to go pick them up by like 11-ish. So when Lauren got to the Dulos home, she noticed that Jennifer's car was there, which she thought was kind of odd. Jennifer had told her that she had her own medical appointment in the city that morning and she would be driving her Range Rover. But the Range Rover was there, but her Suburban was gone. She must have changed her mind, I guess. Anyway, Lauren went inside the house and noticed that it looked like Jennifer must have left the house in a rush because her purse was still there, like on the floor, and her untouched morning tea and granola bar were like still on the counter. I mean, there must have been some like kid drama or something that morning, you know? Well, Lauren went on about her regular routine in the house, and then she went to the school to pick up the kids for their appointments. So Jennifer was supposed to meet Lauren in the city after she wrapped up her own appointment. So Lauren was sending her text updates of like where she was with the kids, like the status of their appointments, all that stuff. And she wasn't getting responses from Jennifer, which wasn't unusual. But what did become unusual was that as time went on, and Jennifer should have finished up her appointment and showed up at the orthodontist, she didn't. She also didn't answer her phone when Lauren called her, and she always answered phone calls. I mean, who knows what's going on, right? So Lauren just proceeded, all the kids wrapped up the appointments. She took them back to Grandma's house, and then she got busy trying to locate Jennifer. Well, apparently Jennifer never made it to her doctor's appointment in Manhattan that day. So Lauren started calling everybody she could think of to try and find her. And nobody had heard from her that day, which was very unlike Jennifer, She was typically very reliable, not somebody to just flake out, especially when other people were waiting for her or she had solid plans. Something was amiss. And by 7 p.m., Lauren called the police and reported Jennifer missing. So the police arrived at the Dulos home in New Canaan and they looked around. Nothing seemed too out of sorts except for the things that Lauren had already pointed out. One officer was snooping around in the garage. He was inspecting the garage and he looked closely at Jennifer's Range Rover that was parked inside. And he saw what appeared to be very small amounts of blood spatter on the bumper.
No, don't like that.
They looked around more and they started noticing more blood spatter. And this wasn't like super obvious
I got
grisly
you.
crime scene blood spatter.
Oh, hey,
this
little
is the
kitten.
kind
How are you?
that you need to know what
How are
you're looking
things? How's
at
Bunny?
to find it, right? Like, it's the kind somebody was trying to hide or had cleaned up. Well, the investigation fanned out.
Thank you.
They got busy trying to find Jennifer's
Meow.
Suburban,
What?
which they quickly did.
Sorry, baby.
It had been abandoned at a nearby park. Jennifer was not with the car, but the investigators noticed more of the same kind of blood cleanup that they had seen in Jennifer's garage. Well, Lauren shared with the police
how's new
that
Bunny?
Jennifer was in the middle of a very
My
contentious
condolences on the
divorce.
other one,
She
but I'm
and
very
her
glad that you have a
husband,
new friend to
estranged
spend time with.
husband of 14 years,
nice
Fotis
to have.
Dulos, were splitting up, and
Love
it was
to share.
anything but amicable. And with 5 children in the mix, custody was a major issue,
Can
not to
you?
mention their assets. And this divorce stuff wasn't new. Jennifer had actually filed for divorce over 2 years
You doing
earlier,
all right?
but it had become so contentious that they hadn't gotten anywhere close to an agreement. Apparently, Fotis was also a major asshole, controlling, combative, physically abusive, mentally, verbally abusive, just completely unreasonable. He had also recently bought a gun. Before Jennifer Dulos was a headline, she was a lot of other things. She was born Jennifer Farber on September 27th, 1968 in New York City to a wealthy, prominent family. Her mother, Gloria Ortenberg, was
Pause.
related.
I have to say something. I learned like today or yesterday. I think it was yesterday. It's not in all places, but in some places, this is already a thing. And in other places, they're trying to make it a thing. Like New York. I guess New York is trying to pass a law so that if somebody dies, any of their assets over $750,000 get taken and go back to the state. So like the state owns them and reclaims them or claims them. And $750,000 might seem like a lot to some people, but especially in a place like New York where everything's typically more expensive, taxes are much higher. They even have different types of other taxes, like state and city taxes, and then there are federal taxes too, but they have all kinds of a lot of places there have other tax, like kinds of taxes that they're being taken from, that are being taken from them, rather. And some other places don't have that, like there's state and there's federal, but that's it, they don't do all those other things. But the taxes are so high there. As it is, that $750,000 is easily a house, right? So if somebody dies and they have whatever assets that they've generated, the state would leave the family or the loved ones of that person with nothing but like maybe the house. But then there's nothing to keep it going or pay for it or whatever the case may be. Like they're basically trying to rob people of their inheritances. I heard that some people are moving out of the state because of that. I thought that was pretty wild.
Related to Elizabeth Claiborne, like Liz Claiborne, like the fashion line. Her father, Hilliard Farber, was a banker and a philanthropist, which means Jennifer grew up in a world of privilege and private schools and expectations. She attended Brown University and then earned her master's degree in writing from New York University's Tisch School of the Arts. Jennifer wrote her own blog, and she also made her living writing for Patch.com.
Puppies?
Well,
What kind
she
of
didn't make her
puppies?
living doing that, but that was like her job.
Yeah.
As I said, Jennifer's family was quite wealthy and prominent, so Jennifer made a living just being from that family. Does that make sense? They were rich, okay? Generational wealth. While attending Brown, Jennifer met Fotis Dulos. Fotis was born on August 6th, 1967 in Turkey.
Okay,
the two grew up in
generational wealth
Athens,
is what the
Greece.
state would
When
be
they met,
blocking and
Fotis was
stealing.
actually married
Leaving
to
them
wife
with
number
nothing,
one,
pretty much.
Hillary Aldama.
Comparatively,
But they
you know.
divorced after just 4 years of marriage. And after graduating from Brown University in 1989, Fotis went on to Columbia Business School where he got his MBA, and then he founded a real estate development company. Now, Fotis was incredibly charming and handsome. He essentially swept Jennifer off her feet, and they married just as soon as that divorce was final in 2001.
I've been keeping you busy, huh?
They moved to the Connecticut suburbs,
Puppies
and
can
they
be
settled
little
into
babies,
a gorgeous
toddlers.
home in Farmington, Connecticut, and they started
Keep
cranking
close
out a
up
bunch
with
of
them.
kids. Twin boys, Petros and Theodore, were born in April 2006. Then another set of twins, Constantine and Christiane, were born in October 2008. Then came the youngest, a girl that they named Cleopatra Noel, in October 2010. All of their kids were named for Greek Orthodox saints, naturally. The Dulos family had a picture-perfect life. They lived in one of the most affluent suburbs in Connecticut, a $4 million mansion. Fotis's real estate development business was booming, though it turns out that Jennifer's father was bankrolling the business, and essentially their entire life. I'm not so sure that's unusual. You know, Jennifer's father made sure that his daughter and his grandchildren didn't want for anything. You know, they had a certain standard of living, and he just took care of things. The Dulos family vacationed all over the world. They went to Greece often, as you know, Fotis was from there. It was important to him that the kids knew their heritage, right? They were into expensive hobbies. Fotis was very much into water skiing. It's like a whole thing, right? I think you get the idea. Jennifer was from money, big time, old money.
You know what one of my favorite teas is?
Big time. Jennifer was very close to her father,
a simple tea,
in
but it's so good.
2017,
It's like
he passed away. She was heartbroken around the same time.
I've had some better ones and I've had some not so great ones, but a good Earl Grey is, it's so good. It's like, it's kind of a little bit maybe floral, I suppose. Could it be in a floral category? But it's a little bit sweet, Earl Grey, but it's mild. I love it. English breakfast isn't bad either, but I really love a good Earl Grey. I don't have it all the time. I have that lemon cake tea a lot more. Or sleepy time. I drink sleepy time in the day because it's stronger than chamomile. When I drink it.
It became clear that Fotis was living a very independent life.
Tea.
You know, he was kind of in La La Land, enjoying this lifestyle made possible by Jennifer's
place,
very wealthy, very generous
and
family.
So what's the
and
flavor
Jennifer
profile
had become so occupied with life at home and this gaggle of children that Fotis got away with doing whatever he wanted, including straying from their marriage. I mean, I'm sure this will surprise precisely no one, but Fotis was carrying on a pretty serious affair with a woman that lived in Miami named Michelle Traconis. Apparently, Michelle was like a water skier, I guess. Maybe that's how they met.
Is it a type of tea or is it
extracurricular water skiing?
place that
Jennifer figured out what was going on and she confronted Fotis. It did not go well.
What does it take? What's the
flavor
flavor
profile? Didn't go like how you might
tell?
expect, right? It's like he didn't deny it at all. He was just like, yeah. And what? He had become so emboldened to do whatever the fuck he wanted. He suggested that Jennifer move out of this $4 million home that her family...
I have to know. You put regular tea in your morning coffee. That's kind of like a coffee version of an Arnold Palmer, though, yeah? It's a full-bodied English black tea known for being strong and malty, and it says reliable, so I guess it's pretty consistent. Described as a proper brew with rich dark color. Pairs well with milk and is less refined than Yorkshire Gold, offering more direct, sometimes slightly bitter taste. Well, I don't know. I mean, you guys say it's great. That doesn't sound nice to me. I don't know why. Let's see what it has to say about Earl Grey, though. I feel like it's just more delicate, and it's still black tea, black flavored, but it has, yes, it's a floral, or has florals in it, with oil from the bergamot orange, giving it distinctly citrus and floral aroma and taste. Yeah, I love that. It's a good one, is light and delicate, and it's almost a little bit sweet. Naturally, though. Same thing with the sleepy time. I don't add anything to it. I don't like to add sugar or anything to it. It's just tea. I like the natural flavor of the tea. It's named after the British Prime Minister, Charles II Earl Grey. It's known for being invigorating and soothing. Was that his favorite blend, or did they make the blend for him? Now I have to know that too. Oh, you have my Gemini brain going. Okay. It's known for being invigorating and soothing, often enjoyed plain, which is what I do, or sometimes with lemon or with milk. Brewing involves, I like it. It says improved focus. I didn't know that. Antioxidants, improved focus. Smooth medium body. Some blends add vanilla, lavender, or other flavors, or e.g. London fog. Yeah. So it sounds like the Yorkshire is like a sharper, deeper, non-floral version. Malty, it says. What is malty tea? It doesn't sound yummy to me. It's not a good descriptor. Rich, bold, has a slightly sweet flavor reminiscent of caramel, toasted grains, or malted milk balls. Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Typically thick, full-bodied black tea with earthy, robust, sometimes chocolatey taste, having high viscosity or smooth mouthfeel. Yeah, okay, I know what it's talking about. Kind of like if you've ever had a really good like Thai iced tea, the mouthfeel on that, I know what they're talking about. Yep, that sounds delicious. Now I can join you on the bandwagon. I bet you that's delicious. I would try a good cup of that for sure. Don't get me wrong, I still love my Earl Grey, but that does sound yummy. And I like Thai iced tea too, actually. Good one when it's made right. Often I'll use almond milk in mine though. I'll adjust things for my preferences, but tea talk with MGen. Love you guys. It's so cute. Oh gosh. Tastes like toasted wheat, caramelized molasses, honey, or even roasted bitterness, which sounds blended and all those other things. Perfectly delicious. But just sharper. I feel like it's not as delicate as what? The Earl Grey. I heard no, it's not. Still good though. It's a little special corner. That's awesome. Thanks for telling me about that.
Only paid for, by the way, so that he could move his new girlfriend in.
Hold on. I did have one more question. was named after him. It was not invented for him. Hold on. Closer. It was named after Charles Grey, the second Earl Grey. Is it talking about Earl? Okay, Earl can sometimes be a name for, it's not a king, but it's kind of like a king. Like they were the kings of the time, or the land, or the sections of the land. They were called earls. Charles Grey, the second Earl Grey. He's a prominent politician, prime minister. I don't know if it was for him. It was named after him. Okay. There's because of the bergamot edition, which is it's a Asian oil. Popular though unlikely story, it says, is that the tea was a gift from a Chinese official to Lord Grey in gratitude for saving his son's life. According to Grey family lore, the tea was specifically created for him to offset the lime in the water at Hawick Hall in Northumberland. Oh yeah, Northumberland. That's absolutely like Viking era territory. That was before and during and after the collapse and the rise of different structures, like even into the kingdoms that still exist today. They didn't at one point, they were adapted. But Umberland, Northumberland, etc., those are old names. And so those are the era where the term Earl was common. It was very much like a king, kind of, the time, but of, yeah, they were called Earls. Earl of Northumberland. Yeah, see, it was a title. It's a royal title. It's like a kind of equivalent to a king, I think. Earl is a high-ranking British noble, historically equivalent to a continental count, who governs regions or shires on behalf of the king. So it's like they're the king of their territories. But yeah. Yeah. Just to break it down, like let's say you have let's say you've got the king of, I'll just pick a random spot, the king of England, and so he's the king of everything, but he appoints some earls, like there's no way he can be in all these places at once, so he divides that kingdom. He still has, it's all the kings, the main kings, like he still runs and governs everything. All the others still technically go through him, as far as I believe and understand. It's, yes, look, Anglo-Saxon, Viking era, hello. I told you, earls. That's so funny. I knew there was something here. Gut instinct was piquing my interest. The Socratic method of teaching, they're saying it. That's how it works. That's cute. I told you my wings came out earlier. They're always there, but felt that flutter open. Halo. So the main king would like divide the whole continent into different like subcategories, and each subcategory would have its own earl ruling that like subdomain of the territory, the whole continent. But they still all like it was still the main kings. They just basically had managers, kind of. They had kingly rules, basically, in their domains, but they still technically answered to the main king, right? Very interesting. Earl Grey, wouldn't you know? So that's the, it says solution for water. There was lime, which is like a mineral that comes out of stone, certain stone, like limestone. To offset the lime in the water at Howick Hale in Northumberland. I'm assuming that was the palace. Howick Hall. Ancestral seat of the Earls. This is big mansion. Looks like it's like a castle. It says Newcastle. Tower House. It's pretty big. Yep. So that's one story. Also says Lady Grey, which is his wife, used the tea which was blended with bergamot when entertaining in London, making it fashionable, which may be why it was named. And then also there's an origin debate here, but while commonly associated with Twinnings, Jacksons of Piccadilly also claimed they originated the tea after Lord Grey gave them the recipe in 1830. But yeah, just lovely tea.
With her daughter.
I read tea
That
too.
seems insane to me, but I mean, I wasn't there. I don't know this man. Jennifer filed for divorce, and she took those 5 kids and she moved out of that house. And Fotis very quickly moved their girlfriend and the daughter into the family home. Can you believe that? He had spent the last 10 years or so living among Connecticut's upper crust. You know what I mean? His entire life was funded by Jennifer's family. He was very accustomed to, you know, all the things that came with
Lady
that.
Grey,
The
different
money,
tea?
the access, the luxury. But divorcing from Jennifer meant divorcing from that bankroll, right? And he had fathered 5 children. So certainly a custody agreement would afford him some financial support to ensure that
You're
these
right.
kids
It
had
is a
what they
whole
needed.
its
Although
own
Jennifer
thing.
had primary custody, of
Lighter,
course,
more
she
citrus
was their
forward than
mother
Earl Grey.
and their primary source of income. Fotis
Thank
was
you, I
like
didn't know
a
that.
barnacle. But if
No, I still would
Fotis
choose
somehow
Earl Grey.
became the primary custodian of the children,
I
then
like
he'd be
that
able to control
floral.
everything, including
Over
all
the
of their
citrus.
trust
The citrus
funds.
is muted
Each
in the
of
Earl,
the 5
and I like
children
it.
had a $2 million trust fund. It wasn't clear to me if they had some kind of prenuptial agreement. I would assume so with a family with that much wealth, but I didn't see it in the research, and I don't know what the terms were if they did, but having kids, I'm certain wouldn't make
Hold
that
on,
very.
when you have a family crest, you say it came over with William the Conqueror, that's in your family? think he's listed in my family tree by marriage. I think that was the one who wasn't really a nice guy. But I could be wrong. I just have to double check. Hear the rest of this though. No milk or sugar. No, I like it just plain.
Complicated. Anyway, well, you know who we're dealing with. Fotis is out of his mind, unreasonable, entitled, wild. Back to the search for Jennifer. So the police now have a full picture of what's going on with their family dynamic, and they started squinting at Fotis. He wasn't just some entitled asshole that wanted Jennifer's money. They had had many heated arguments in recent months, one that ended up with Fotis laying his hands on Jennifer, and she got a temporary restraining order against him. He was volatile and unpredictable and just blinded by greed.
Money, please! Money.
So the police met with Fotis for questioning, and he was largely unhelpful, but he did offer his phone when they asked for it, and they pulled all of the data off of it. Now, there weren't any incriminating text messages or voicemails to be had, but it did provide a map of his recent whereabouts.
This is what we call self-stitching.
When you move about with your cell phone, it grabs onto whatever cell phone tower is nearby, and you pretty quickly map out your movements, with incredible accuracy. So the data from Fotis's phone showed that on the day Jennifer disappeared, he was at the Farmington house, their former shared home, the entire day. Nothing super wild. But in the evening, Fotis drove about a half hour to downtown Hartford, to kind of a sketchy side of town. Surveillance footage that they later found showed that Fotis was driving a Ford F-150 Raptor with several large black trash bags in the bed of the truck. Then the next available footage showed the truck with some bags missing, and then again, more missing. So between camera angles, whatever was in the back of the truck was being dumped. When the investigators looked a little closer, they found more footage that actually showed Fotis at multiple stops at various dumpsters dumping things into them. One or two items at a time. And he wasn't alone. His little girlfriend, Michelle, she was riding with him and also helping him dump things out of the truck. Well, what were they dumping, you might ask? Well, the police went out and tried to recover whatever was in those trash cans and dumpsters. They found blood-drenched clothing, zip ties, gloves, box cutters, a lot of paper towels, cleaning materials, and license plates registered to Fotis. When the blood on the evidence was tested, it matched Jennifer. Also found on some of the garbage bags was DNA of two other people. Guess who? Yeah, Fotis Dulos and Michelle Traconis. So on June 1st, 2019, 8 days after Jennifer Dulos disappeared, her estranged husband and his girlfriend were charged with evidence tampering and hindering prosecution, and they were arrested in an Avon, Connecticut hotel room. They pled not guilty, of course. The police were sure that these two shitheads were involved, but they didn't have enough solid evidence yet. The investigators believe that Fotis attacked Jennifer inside her garage in her New Canaan home. They found an obvious sign of a violent struggle, blood spatter, cleanup attempts. So the police got Michelle Traconis alone, tried to get her to flip on Fotis, or at least, give up some information. It was clear that she and Fotis had carefully scripted their alibi, and they built out these timelines to account for every minute. And the more the police pressed Michelle on the details, the more it started to unravel. She started losing track of the details, confusing things, contradicting things. It's really hard to keep lies straight. And Michelle was all kinds of discombobulated. The mountain of surveillance footage was pretty damning, and Michelle didn't have any explanations. Surveillance footage also showed Fotis driving in the area of Waveney Park. That's where Jennifer's Suburban was found abandoned on the day that she disappeared. He was driving a pickup truck, and in the bed of that truck was a bicycle. Later, one of Jennifer's neighbors caught on their Ring camera a man wearing a hooded sweatshirt riding a bicycle toward Jennifer's house from the area of Waveney Park. Later, ring cameras showed Jennifer pulling into her garage after dropping the kids off at school, and Fotis was likely inside waiting for her. Investigators say that he likely attacked her in the garage, cleaned up all the evidence poorly, put her body and all the cleaning debris in her Suburban, drove it out to that park to abandon it, transferred all that stuff to whatever vehicle he drove, that pickup truck that he's seen driving, and then, drove away to commence his dumpster spree. So when the forensic investigators used luminol in the vehicle and in Jennifer's garage, it lit up like crazy. Like there was major blood evidence everywhere. Blood that had been cleaned up so you couldn't see it with the naked eye. Well, Fotis doubled down. He claimed that Jennifer must have staged her own disappearance to make him look bad.
Sure, Jan.
He said that this was all part of her trying to ruin him for cheating on her. Well, say whatever you want to, Fotis, because the surveillance footage, the digital trails, the DNA evidence, all of it was just too much. On January 7th, 2020, Fotis was charged with kidnapping and murder. Michelle Traconis and another associate of Fotis were charged with conspiracy related to the same, as they had helped Fotis establish that alibi while he committed the murder. They were all arrested. Now, in late January 2020, a bond hearing was scheduled for Fotis, and the media was camped out outside the house.
No,
the
I
story
knew
was all
I
over
remember
the
something
news
about
at that point, and Fotis never emerged. When the cops went inside, they found him unresponsive in his garage. He had attempted suicide by carbon monoxide poisoning.
About that.
He was airlifted to a hospital in New York City and put on life support, but 2 days later, he died. A suicide note was found inside the Farmington home, but he refused to take responsibility for Jennifer's presumed death, of course. Jennifer Dulos was declared legally dead on October 24th, 2023, though her body has never been recovered. Michelle Traconis? Well, she went to trial, and in 2024, she was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder. She was also found guilty of tampering with evidence and hindering prosecution. She says that it was a mistake to have trusted Fotis, but she still claims to not know what happened to Jennifer or where her body is.
I don't know. I don't remember.
It's probably in a lot of places. You know what I'm saying? Michelle was sentenced to 20 years in prison for her role in the conspiracy to murder Jennifer Dulos. She will likely be paroled after serving about 8 years, but we'll just have to wait and see. And that is the story of Jennifer Dulos. Let me know down in the comments below if you remember this, Kate.
Guys. Alright. Please remember to pray. Do no harm. Take no crime. I will catch you on the next one. If you would like to get a pen and some paper or journal out. Okay. The first question is, what emotions do I try to avoid? Okay, the second question is, why am I afraid to feel them? First one was, what emotions do I try to avoid? Second, why am I afraid to feel them? It's okay to feel what you feel. Also, if this brings up any emotions and you need to let it go and you need to give a cry, then do that. It's okay. Let it go. Sending good vibes. I just saw something about chocolate pudding. The third question on this is, what do I think will happen by allowing myself to feel these emotions? And you don't have to write it down here in the comments either. You can, but if you wanted to jot this down, do that. Three, what do you think will happen by allowing myself to feel these emotions? I also feel like another way to interpret that is, what do you think will happen if you allow yourself to process through and like feel these emotions? It doesn't have to be in a harmful or unhealthy way, but let's say it's anger, right? Rather than trying to push it away or shame yourself for feeling it, or just expressing that without trying to stop and process maybe where it's coming from. Sitting with it and asking yourself why. And I'm not saying there may not be a very valid reason behind it, but sometimes that can also help you place and release it. Like, a lot of times, first of all, grief is just left with no place to go. But there's this quote that I like, and it said, it's like something like, I sat with my anger long enough, and she told me her name was Grief, or I realized she was disguised as, she was wearing a disguise, something about that. Sometimes it can be fear or sadness. That's just one thing. comes from somewhere. Yes, there's, there's chemistry behind it too, but even chemical shifts often come from a memory, a flashback, a trauma, even, an injustice. Could even go back to childhood, often may. Like maybe feel like you're angry about people trying to rule over your life, lord over your life in some kind of way, or domineer over you. And it may upset you more than you want it to, or more than you want to admit, but that may go back into childhood where maybe somebody did that, oppressed you, or made you feel like you weren't worthy, credible, or took your bodily autonomy away from you, your choice, freedom of movement on levels away from you. And so it's extra triggering, or you really don't like when people try to do that as an adult that comes from somewhere. There's no shame in that. It's just trying to tell you where there is either a boundary that needs to be set, or like you've outgrown something, or there needs to be healing. And I'm not saying like you should feel bad for feeling those feelings. Sometimes part of that healing is realizing that you deserve better than to deal with people that are causing harm like that, and so removing yourself from a situation, or removing them from your environment, if that's the case, if that's necessary, and if that's applicable. But it's part of the process, right? It's part of the healing process. So we're just going to do one more for the night, because I know this can be a lot to kind of think about and move through for some people. So I just wanted to make sure to take it piece by piece, really go through, not to overwhelm people, but also to give people a chance to really kind of sit with releasing whatever needs to go, including self-guilt for feeling. How do I show up for others but fall short for myself? I have an example for you, okay? If you saw that a child was tired and they needed rest, then you wouldn't berate them for taking naps, because you know that's just what they need. It's what their body needs, obviously. You don't have to earn rest. Your body needs rest, your body needs rest. That's one. If you wouldn't tolerate somebody being nasty to a child, or a friend, or family member, or anybody, right? You'd stick up for somebody, but you kind of just let things slide when it comes to you, which I've been guilty of too, right? We're not doing the guilt thing. That's also a trained trauma response. It comes from your whole life, people either expecting you to put them before you, or requiring you to do so. It was like forced training, even if it was just to try to keep the peace on some kind of level. And it becomes a habit, it becomes ingrained, it becomes programmed. So you have to rewire that. If you wouldn't tolerate people mistreating them, why do it to yourself? If you would encourage someone else to nourish themselves, take care of themselves, rest if they need to, fuel their body when they need to eat, right? Hydrate, whatever it is. Take care of themselves. Why would you not pause and do that for yourself? If you would be so quick to jump and take care of someone else, or protect someone else, or nurture someone else, or stick up for someone else, or try to boost and uplift someone else, then why do you not also deserve that? If not from others, then from you, but at least start with you, right? You set that standard. So those are some examples. something different. Just something to think about. I have to think about that too. Okay. Cheers. The sun will come out tomorrow. Bet you but I know that tomorrow there'll be sun. Beautiful pillow. Sweet dreams, my darlings. Thank you so much for being here, Lee. Do no harm. Take no crap. And I will definitely catch you in the next one. Get some sleep. Rest well.